This is Matthew Kresal, and you're listening to Doctor Who and 2 Extended. When we think of 1960s Doctor Who with the Daleks, our minds often think of monochrome images. We think of William Hartnell and later Patrick Troughton on BBC television, facing Terry Nation's creations in encounters ranging from their city on Skaro to invasion-ravaged Britain and beyond. Yet for brief occasions in the middle of that decade, that wasn't the case. One could see them in color, with Peter Cushing on the big screen. The first of these two movies, released between the TV series' second and third seasons, was called Doctor Who and the Daleks. So how did such a thing happen? Now, it's worth remembering the ephemeral nature television was seen in at the time, especially in the UK, with it being seen in similar terms to stage plays, in that you either saw it or you didn't. As a result, UK film companies often had themselves a market to do remakes of programs for cinema release, allowing audiences who missed the original broadcast a chance to see things that were often shorter in overall running time, but with, at times slightly, bigger budgets. Hammer, for example, now famous for their horror films, got an early start by bringing the BBC's Dick Barton radio thrillers to the screen in the late 1940s, and later on in the 50s had their first sizable successes remaking Nigel Kneale's Quatermass serials for the big screen. Amicus, founded by Americans Milton Subotsky and Max Rosenberg, saw a similar opportunity with the first two Dalek serials, paying the princely sum of £500 to writer Terry Nation and the BBC for the rights. As such, when Subotsky and an uncredited David Whittaker adapted the 7-episode story into an 80-minute movie running scarcely half as long as the TV serial, some changes were inevitable. Perhaps the biggest being a change of origin story, given that the production of the TV series would preclude bringing back the TV series' main cast. Instead, William Hartnell's Doctor, who still had his harder edge in the TV serial, becomes the genial, grandfatherly human scientist Doctor Who, played by Peter Cushing, who has built the TARDIS in his back garden. Susan, or Susie, as Cushing's doctor often calls her, is a bright tween, played by the adorable Roberta Tovey, with an older sister named Barbara, played by Jenny Linden. Now, as you might expect, given that Barbara is no longer a school teacher, neither is Ian Chesterton, who instead becomes Barbara's bumbling and slightly cowardly boyfriend, played by the actor-comedian Roy Castle. The TARDIS itself is different too, for that matter, with its interior, while still being bigger on the inside, looking and sounding very different from its TV counterpart, with the now famous wheezing, groaning noise replaced by another electronic noise altogether. So from its opening minutes, then, Doctor Who and the Daleks is a very different kettle of fish from what BBC TV viewers saw in the early months of 1964. The movie itself, beyond those opening minutes, plays like a more tightly presented version of the TV serial. Virtually all of its significant plot points are here, though many scenes receive a trim, and with some scenes and supporting characters getting omitted altogether. There's also, likely due to the intended cinema audience, some changes in emphasis, including having a character who sacrificed himself in the TV version manage to survive by finding himself a convenient ledge here. There's also a very different tone. Now, if the TV serial was an action-adventure story with sometimes grim moments, the movie presents a lighter touch through its script and through the direction of Gordon Fleming. It's something apparent in the characterization of Ian Chesterton, with Roy Castle's Ian being less William Russell's man of action and more comic relief, something that starts in his very first scene and lasts until the movie's closing frame. And while what we might think of as horror moments remain in places, they're often offset, if not outright dissipated, by more comedic moments that soon follow. It's something that feels jarring, perhaps, today, but it's easy to see why filmmakers chose this route, and why the movie worked so well at times for audiences who had, at best, only hazy memories of the TV serial. The movie also has one other thing going for it, namely, in being made for cinema screens, Doctor Who and the Daleks is in both widescreen and glorious Technicolor. As the movie moves beyond Doctor Who's home and garden, it becomes full of vibrant colors, from the green lighting of the petrified forest to the multicolored Daleks who populate the city. Even the Thals get made up in borderline garish colors, complete with blonde hair and blue-green eye makeup. While the sets themselves, and the Dalek City especially, somehow manage to be more dated than their TV counterparts as a very 1960s vision of the future, they're still gorgeous pieces of work to look at. And while we may take color for granted today, and we've now had our share of multicolored Daleks in televised Doctor Who, including most infamously in 2010's Victory of the Daleks, it still is something that makes this movie stand out. In the final analysis, then, Doctor Who and the Daleks is an intriguing curiosity. It feels like an odd cross between 1960s Doctor Who and the Adam West Batman TV series of the time, which means it's splashy, colorful, and over-the-top fun. Is it a patch on the original TV serial? Perhaps not. Is it part of Doctor Who's canon? Almost certainly not. But as rainy day or late night viewing, especially for those likely to be put off by the thought of monochrome, it's a suitably diverting 80 minutes. Not to mention we're seeing for the sight of the one and only Peter Cushing as Doctor Who.